As you already know, since last Friday, we're celebrating the winter release of 40 standardized vocabularies. We celebrate, but we don't just celebrate. We want to provide you with a full update on what is going on in the vocabularies. There will be 3 parts in the presentation. Everything's good so far?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's good.
Okay, good. There will be 3 parts in the presentation. First of all, we will update you on the current status of the improvement activities, including the deliverables around it and the release plan. Then you have a look at what is done and delivered to the recent release and what is not, including the overhauls and something intriguing. Last, we'll dive deeper into the community contribution process. Right after that, we have a vocabulary working group meeting where we invite all of you for asking the questions and providing a feedback on the release, especially if you already had the chance to try it out. Please come and tell us what you think about it. It is important to know who is talking to you and what the responsibilities of these people are. Alexander speaks first and is leading the vocabulary team and oversees everything related to maintenance and improvement activities. Oleg is a technical lead in the team, having the deepest expertise in vocabularies development and quality assurance. He's responsible for technical guidance of almost any feature we add to the vocabularies, and of course the releases. Anna has gained lots of experience in vocabularies and, more importantly, other fields. So now she's leading the vocabulary improvement effort and the vocabulary working group, as well as supports numerous of communication channels between the team and the community. Here is the team. They're not that visible, but exclusively because of them, the vocabularies are still going strong. Everybody has its own responsibility in the whole process. Timur, together with Alexei, who helps him a lot, is the technical architect of the vocabulary development system. Each piece of the heavy lifting SQL machinery we can only dream of is like his own child. Vlad is a vocabulary technical lead in ETL. He knows everything about caveats of mapping your source data into OMOPCDM. He stress tests the vocabularies we build, and sometimes he actually explains us how to do things. Nikita has specific expertise in MedDRA classifications and the connections to SNOMED that resulted in MedDRA overhaul. He is also implementing new approaches for mapping like ChatGPT and others. Irina has put lots of effort to make ICD family overhaul possible, even where it seemed impossible. Masha is the new SNOMED guru. I don't know where she found time to support all the procedural vocabularies while doing the SNOMED overhaul. Great job, Masha. Maria covers the measurement domain, but also helps maintain the vaccines and playing with the hierarchies, complex cases like smoking hierarchies, OMAP extension scales, and everything. Barbara has taken over a large part of the drug vocabularies, like a recent one day of refresh. Even more it comes, Varya. Tanya helps us to communicate things properly to such parties like SNOMED or NLM that might be tricky sometimes. Tatiana, Janice, and Dima have done most of the manual mapping. They also implemented the metadata tracking system that strongly helps us to track the mapping origin and everything around it. I really thank to everybody in the team for the huge effort they've done and continue doing. Okay, let's have a look on the current status of the things we worked on. As you already know, last year we started a project to overhaul the way the vocabularies are maintained by the vocabulary team. This year we're continuing, and here is a list of the most important activities. Let's go through the achievements we've done so far. This is the new mode of operation. We want to make sure that we do the right things to get the more out of the resources we have. So we put some effort into aligning with the community in different ways. Second is we make sure that we focus, so we prioritize. And for that we have a governance committee. Here you can see the faces. This is to make sure that everything is transparent. Third, we want to scale up. So that is why we have introduced the community contribution. Here is a roadmap. We've done a huge February release on February 29, the biggest one we ever had. Overall, the plan worked out fine. Even though we had a leap day this year and it helped a lot, we delivered this release on time. The next one you'll get in August. So by now, we've delivered such things as the landscape assessment, new stable roadmap and release schedule, and the guidelines for the community contribution. Also, we rolled out the vocabulary principles and had a 3-day workshop to address them in a QA system. This work will be continuing, and we'll try to engage the community even more here. Yes, we need a new server so that people could come and work collaboratively. We are not yet there, but we'll keep pushing on or find other options. The last one, the vocabulary versioning, is the long-awaited. Can we get the old versions of vocabularies? Even though nobody really expected this so far, but this is what is happening. Athena has a memory now, a time machine. You can pick the older version when you download the vocabulary from Athena. You can also generate the delta between the two versions. You get delta in the form of SQL script or the vocabulary tables where we have the indication of what has changed. Please don't do it just for fun, but if you do it for fun, please compare the current vocabulary version with the previous one, because we have this delta pre-generated and stored in the server cache. The older versions will take some time because delta requires heavy calculations, so you would need to wait longer. But please don't do it for fun. This is the example of how community can engage and contribute to the overall work. We thank Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center for supporting this project. Now Oleg will speak about what we achieved in the February vocabulary release. It will summarize a huge teamwork during the last half of the year. Oleg, please take it over. I will continue sharing.
Yep, thank you, Alexander. So back to the release. Are you still considering downloading the new vocabulary release? I will try to convince you that it is in fact necessary. Let's start simple. There are just more concepts. We refreshed SNOMED, MedDRA, ICD-10 PCS, ICD-10 CM, SEVEX, RxNorm, and other vocabularies. There are better hierarchies in LOINC, MedDRA, SNOMED, and ICD-10 PCS, and there are, of course, better mappings. We refreshed the ICD family, incorporated lots of contributions, and also performed bug fixing. This release contains what you were asking for. We closed 41 GitHub issues and addressed many forum posts. Let's look closely at the specific vocabularies, and I'm going to start with LOINC. LOINC is one of the core vocabularies because of the high number of standard concepts in it. This release, we deliver LOINC version 2.76. The released version contains important bug fixes authored by the Regenstrief Institute, and they highly recommend users to update the vocabulary. Around 200 concepts previously had the wrong semantics, either incorrect mappings, incorrect components, methods, or something else. We also enriched the hierarchy by adding approximately 2,000 links between LOINC and SNOMED, and these changes have been made available due to our targeted collaboration with SNOMED and SNOMED collaboration with LOINC. We performed some deduplication between SNOMED and LOINC concepts provided to us by the community, by you, thank you very much, in the form of community contribution. Just one example here. Cardiac CT is the same thing that the CT of heart, and previously both of these concepts were standard, and now only one of them is standard. Let's jump to SNOMED, and we could have talked about the SNOMED for the whole hour, but most changes are technical, and it's like a service to your car to run smoothly. That's why today we want to focus on changes that are important to you. First of all, we improved domain assignment and stability. Now we rely more on concept classes provided by SNOMED. To do that, one new concept class disorder has been introduced, and it helps us to identify conditions easier. We de-standardized concepts that are not conditions, not measurements, not procedures, not even observations. Besides that, we mapped secondary malignant neoplasms to cancer modifier vocabulary, so they became non-standard too. Validity dates assignment has been improved and now fully corresponds to the source data. We deduplicated concepts using inside SNOMED using the SNOMED logic. And let's jump to the next slide. I finally addressed the to-do items that have been there in our to-do list for years. We split pre-coordinated measurements into post-coordinated. You can see the example here. Previously standard neutrophil count within reference range is now a measurement with a result as it should be. It will help you to build consistent cohorts. Other changes in SNOMED. The additions in this release are July version of International SNOMED, September version of US SNOMED, and September version of UK edition. SNOMED UK drug extension module has been excluded completely from the OMA vocabularies, but don't worry, they were duplicates and they are now linked to the correct DM plus D concepts. Validity dates assignment has been improved and now fully corresponds to the source data, and we also deduplicated concepts inside the SNOMED following their logic. We prioritized observable entities over procedures. Now to MedDRA. And this is probably the most complicated slide of the whole presentation, but we will discuss this picture in detail just a few moments later. And the main thing about MedDRA, we built a new hierarchy and added mappings. So two things about MedDRA. And the ground rules here are, if the MedDRA concepts is mapped to SNOMED and there is a good mapping or complete correspondence, MedDRA is above SNOMED in the hierarchy. Bad mappings, so uphill mappings, may result in the position of MedDRA, in the variations of MedDRA position above or below SNOMED. Important note here, if you're using the hierarchy, you have to check it because the hierarchies do not agree with each other. It's not our fault. It's like MedDRA is built, and it is like it is how SNOMED is built. So let's start with a complete correspondence between MedDRA and SNOMED. Here you see the example. Next slide, please. Colonoscopy in MedDRA is the same thing as colonoscopy in SNOMED, and we built a MAPS2 relationship between this concept in MedDRA, this concept in SNOMED. Because this is an equivalent mapping, complete correspondence between MedDRA and SNOMED, that's why MedDRA is positioned above SNOMED. And you see the is-a link going from SNOMED to MedDRA. MedDRA is above because there is a good mapping. The next example, you will see that there is, well, maps to uphill from tumor thrombosis to thrombosis, which is more general term in SNOMED. And in this particular case, there is a link from MedDRA to SNOMED. And that means that MedDRA is below SNOMED in the hierarchy. What else we've changed? We refreshed MedDRA to the most recent version, which is 26.1, available from September 2023. We added mappings to SNOMED. It's impressive number of almost 11,000 PT concepts and almost 3,000 LT terms. And we started collecting mapping metadata that helped us to build the hierarchy. Let's jump to ICD family. We refreshed the ICD family, which is ICD-10 with local modifications such as ICD-10 GM, Germany, Chinese modification, modifications, France modification, Korean, ICD-7 and ICD-9-CM. We developed new mapping reuse approach. We called it Common Data Environment, or shortly CDE, to improve consistency of mappings for the whole ICD family. It contains 3 types of groups: strict, medium, and broad. Strict groups are the most important. They contain concepts with the same or slightly different semantics. You can see the example of the strict group on the slide. The same description, so basically the same semantics, has concepts with the same semantics. They have different codes in ICD-10 and ICD-10-CM, but now they're together in one strict group, and that will help us to harmonize mappings between these vocabularies. Other changes, we based our release on the most recent version of ICD-10-CM, available from April 2024, so we're working a little bit ahead of time. And we refreshed mappings with new SNOMED version for all ICD family concepts. And we added almost 30,000 missing concepts from CIM-10 concepts, CIM-10 vocabulary plus translations coming from France. The next one is ICD-10 PCS. We improved ICD-10 PCS SNOMED hierarchy, removed almost 4,000 erroneous is-a links between these two vocabularies. We mapped all new drugs to RxNorm as we usually do, and we refreshed to the most recent version, which is again April 2024. The same is for ICD-10 CM. And we renamed some concepts, XW0. So XW0 section got renamed. We noticed that in some cases, name of the ancestor contained a specific ingredient, but the descendants did not inherit this ingredient. We investigated further and found out that this problem has only been related to drugs. So we put a placeholder drug administration into some names, like this here on this slide. Let's jump to the next slide, and the next vocabulary is OMOP extension. We introduced almost 200 new concepts for antibody measurements, stage, scales, severity of alopecia tool, and some other. We also included a huge community contribution to support the upcoming ECDM expansion developed exclusively to analyze the extracorporeal life support data. The next one is OMOP genomic. And OMOP genomic got an update. OMOP genomic variants still contain somatic mutations relative to cancer, but there are a lot of changes among them in the renaming of concept classes, but there is much more. Please follow the oncology working group for the updates. Other changes in this release, there are lots of them. We can't walk through every change, so please, I refer you to release notes. We refreshed RxNorm, we refreshed NDC, SPL, CVX, MESH, and we improved mappings for CPT4, READ, OPCS for UK Biobank OMOP drug. SAS vocabulary is now distributed under an open source license. Thank you very much for your contribution. We have numerous bug fixes in this release. Now, previously, we focused on the things that we release, but there were some mappings that we actually found interesting. We try not to give you wrong mappings anymore. There are just some examples here. You see that glows, for some reason, they were mapped to ibuprofen. Even though we fixed this, but even though there may be some bad mappings, we will be there for you to fix them. And thank you very much. That was what the vocabulary team has done. And now let's see what the community does.
Anna?
Well, we've seen quite a lot of work. So know if you're overwhelmed, you should be, because that it is a lot of work, and the whole vocabulary team definitely deserves all the credit for the continuous support they've been providing. But community also deserves a great credit for their community contributions. And the first slide goes back to the basics on what it actually is. In a nutshell, the contribution is your opportunity. And I'm hearing some echo, but no, it's good. Contribution is an opportunity to fix whatever you want to get fixed. If you have mapping errors, if you have codes that do not have mappings and you want to add them, or if you have your source vocabulary that is not yet in Athena and you would like to add it, this is your chance. And we've talked a lot about the pipeline before, but essentially in a nutshell, you would create an issue and we will walk with you through the templates, how to fill them and how to submit them. And really, as opposed to just putting your issues, problems, concerns with the mappings or concepts on the forums, community contribution really provides you an opportunity to speed up the process of incorporating what you want to be incorporated in the releases. And if we look at the contribution over the years, over a year, on this slide, there have been 2 releases since we introduced this pipeline. And what we are really proud of is that community has been responsive. So for the first release, we saw 3 contributions, 2 of which were simple and supported by the templates. We also worked on the complex contribution together with Erasmus team to support drug research. But now, if we look at the February release, we in fact have 9 contributions, so it tripled. And we see that still a lot of them, as we were hoping for, are simple contributions. We also had more of a medium complexity contributions that still are supported by the templates, but require some more knowledge of vocabularies. And then we also had, similarly to the previous release, one complex contribution where we really worked together over the months with the owners, with the stewards of that contribution for the extracorporeal, I'm not doing that right, data that Oleg has mentioned. And on the next slide, let's dive deeper into these contributions, because it's interesting to see the content, what community can actually do. And you see that the first 5 in green are simple contributions. Think change mappings, think change domains. And some of the things we were not even planning to work on, like, for example, NDC mapping. And somebody contributed this fix, and that's why you see it in this release and not later on. We also had 3 contributions on deduplications and this word that I cannot pronounce, set aside to actually work on it. The new vocabulary was introduced as well, which was considered complex contribution. But of course, that is nice to see, but there are other things that we didn't get a chance to complete. And the first 3, you have this tables on your right side. The first 3 green ones are contributions supported by the templates, but they were submitted after deadline, so they're just moving forward, propagating into the next release. We also have some medium complexity contributions where we need to talk more about them. But of course, the main thing that you can see here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 complex contributions. Think adding hierarchies, think refreshing complex vocabularies, think adding new complex vocabularies. That, of course, require our contributors or owners of these vocabularies more knowledge about the system, about the vocabularies. And on the other hand, it also requires a lot of work from the vocabulary team. So far, we've seen that we were able to process 1 complex contribution, and it seems that it will be the case for the upcoming release, of course, unless we are able to secure more resources or more time. So that's something that we will need to work on. And you can see here on the very first bullet point is that, yet reiterating on the complex contributions, we will need to now prioritize them to select the one we will be focusing the most time on. And this is something we're doing together with the committee. But also we're working hard on producing documentation so that our stewards, our owners of the vocabularies can set up development schemas and can work or start working on those vocabularies independently. Then for another next step with the contributions is that now, because we have new release, that's a perfect opportunity for you to check it out, to download it, and of course to search for any problems, any errors, any areas of improvement for the things you care about. And for that, we will have a fun community-wide activity soon. So please stay tuned for that. And we will share more on what that community-wide activity will be. That being said, I will now summarize what you've heard so far, and that's been a lot of information. But in a nutshell, really the main takeaway message is that there is a new release and a lot happened. And a lot happened to the vocabularies that everybody cares about. SNOMED, LOINC, beyond all of the other things. And the release contains refreshes, contains improvements, contains bug fixes. So please download it, check it out. And of course, report on anything that you don't like about this new release. That is really the main takeaway. But additionally, of course, there are numerous channels to get involved. Be it education, if you want to learn more about vocabularies, if you want to provide feedback, if you want to participate in the development, please shoot us an email, come to the vocabulary work group, or an old school way, just post something on the forums. And if you have questions on this presentation or really any other questions, please come to the vocabulary work group meeting, which will happen right after this call. And QR codes do not really work well with Teams. So for that, you will go to Teams, CDM work group, vocabulary work group, and there will be a meeting there. And there you'll see all of the faces you've seen just now, and that would be an opportunity for you to ask more questions. And also, I think we have, and that summarizes our talk for today. And I think we even have some time for questions, comments, concerns now.
Thank you, Alexander, Oleg, and Anna. All right, we have a couple questions. So Cynthia, we have a question from Harold in the chat. So I don't know if anyone wants to try to just answer that in the chat, or Harold, if you want to raise your hand. But we have Cynthia with her hand up. So Cynthia, do you want to start?
Yeah, I saw that you de-standardize the concept is and I was curious, how do you handle then like fact relationships, like is a mother of a child or is a child of a mother? Thank you. Oh, and by the way, this is just amazing work.
Is a child of a mother? Is that how it works, Cynthia?
Yeah, so I think in the pregnancy group, like we want to make sure that we link the records of the mother and the child. So I think under the fact relationship table.
I was just teasing you.
No, okay.
Totally.
I think that we feel
Alexander, we can't hear you.
Oh, very bad. Then you talk.
Yeah, the thing is, we moved some of these concepts to the relationship domain, and they are standard in there. So you can go to Athena and set filters to the domain relationship, and then check the standard concept there. All the relatives are there. I mean, so adopted son, adopted child, adopted daughter. So probably somewhere here is the right concept for the mother and son. Yeah, it should be there. Domain relationship.
Okay, thank you.
Harold, go ahead.
I just want to, yes, tons of work, and I can't imagine what went on. Is the ancestor table changing, and all the relationships that we depended on in the past to build our intentional concept sets? Do we have to go back and review for all research that's been done using existing concept sets? Change those?
Yeah, I will just quickly answer that, because there actually is a bigger answer to this question. So in a nutshell, because we did a lot to SNOMED, yes, it's a good idea to check the concept sets. Well, that being said, it probably is not the best solution to tell everybody to go through their hundreds of code sets and cohorts in Atlas and like check them manually, right? So this is something we've been working on, in fact, as a larger community. For example, Dima Demshis, who may or may not be on this call, has been building an R package to examine the impact of vocabulary changes on your concepts, specifically with an idea that, well, if something changed, you want to know what changed exactly. And we have, he came to the vocabulary work group call to talk more about how he does that. There are some of the practices that N3C does within their system on tracking changes. but I think primarily for the OHDSI community, once DEMA finalizes this package to be available to the broader community, and like once it's production grade, that would be a good resource to use to systematically assess the impact of changes. Oh, and Dima posted the link in the chat.
Dima.